The 511 program that was implemented in Dallas was done as a direct component of the Integrated Corridor Management Program. We felt that if we were going to try to manage that corridor multimodally and multi-facility, it was essential to communicate what the options might be if you're going to change the way you operate that corridor with the users. And if you're familiar with 511, it's a sort of a national number that can be called or used to get traveler information. And we did not have such a program in the Dallas area. In fact, I don't think we have a 511 system in Texas other than that system that was implemented for that purpose. So what I want to do is explain a little bit about what Dallas did, how we use it, how it's integrated to the ICM program. A little bit of history. 511 was a request, initially a request in 1999 by US DOT to create a number similar to 911. So it would be a universal number across the country that people could call to get traveler information. And in 2000, FCC identified 511 as that number. It was not until 2012 that the joint group there that involved DART and TxDOT and the Council of Governments requested the use of that 511 number to implement it as part of our program. And so we signed an agreement with TxDOT to use that number to develop a 511 system in a 9-county area. We worked with TxDOT. They helped us with communicating with all the telcos to switch so that if you deal within those areas and you dial 511, you actually get an 800 number. The couple of things I wanted you to be aware of: 511 is not mandated by the government, by the federal government. It is a number that can be used, although it does, in safety lieu, did require that certain types of traveler real-time data be collected by the states. And by 2016, this Real-Time System Management Information Program, it's a long acronym there, requires that you have real-time traveler information be placed along all state designated metropolitan area routes of significance. So that is something that it is required, but 511 is not. The purposes of 511 originally was to sort of address congestion, to allow people to find out how to route around, particularly state highways and interstates, to get better response to weather conditions and other incidents that occurred. In 2010, there was a request or requirement to have real-time data be monitored on these state roads, and then also to begin sharing that data with the public in a way that it could be used by private entities like Google or Bing to share that information, using their power actually to get information out. So you might ask the question, why do we need 511 or a traveler information? There's all kinds of them. And if you look around the Dallas area, and I'm sure it's similar in other cities across Texas, there are many. I think I counted up about 10 different traveler information systems. TxDOT has their DalTrans TransVision, and Andy has pointed out that the way that's operating now, that link comes to the statewide traveler information system. But a company called HERE, which used to be Navtech, they provide a commercial service to radio stations and TV stations and others, and will in the future provide in-vehicle traveler information. So you can see there are many different types, but what you will notice about all of them, and I'll just quickly just show you the web screens, which most of them have. This is the DalTrans TransVision website, which is focused on state roads, has cameras, has good incident information. NTTA, which is our toll road authority in the northern part of the DFW area, they have what I would recognize as an increasingly improved and very valuable traveler information that has excellent incidents as it relates to the toll roads, speeds. They're not right present showing camera information, but it is increasingly valuable. This is what here looks like, and you can find this in other cities, Chicago, and there here is looking at this as I guess a business venture to provide increasingly valuable traveler information in big cities across the country. But so you might say, well, what's wrong with the current systems? If you look at each of those different sites, they are, for the most part, focused on either the state roads as it relates to TxDOT, or NTTA focuses on the toll roads. DART, which is the transit system, focuses on DART routes. There's a Fort Worth T, there's a DCTA, so that you can't get any one source of information that is multimodal, multi-facility, and that is primarily what we have found, that motorists and travelers and people want information. They're not interested in getting TxDOT information or DART information. They want traveler information that it's ubiquitous and not specifically tied to an agency. It's tied to their trip. So if you were going to look today at what original 511 systems were call-based, telephone, you call up and get the information. You'll see highway advisory radios, very common. Radio and TV stations would provide information through, a lot of times, connections with the state highway departments. The dynamic message signs are one of the most valuable and important traveler information tools. Transit would have audible announcements. But second generation 511 moved to websites, and then user-initiated automatic, what we call integrated voice response. You're not talking to a call attendant, you're talking to something that sort of digitizes speech, but you have to initiate it. So third generation, they've now switched where you as a user will schedule what your trip is. You'll define what you're interested in, and then if the incidents occur that affect that, you'll get either a text message or you'll get a phone call that calls you and tells you directly. And what is increasingly, and you probably, if you're following what's happening with in-vehicle messaging, that information is coming into vehicles or will be coming in more. And then, of course, mobile devices. Seems like the world gets their information on mobile devices. Our system, when we designed it for the US 75 corridor, did focus on that, but it was for the entire DFW area. We get information. I live in the Rockwall, sort of the eastern part of the Dallas. I take I-30 across the Lake Ray Hubbard Bridge. Every day I get text messages or emails that tell me, well, can I make it across the bridge? Do I need to divert to 66? And that then is also tied in with my transit choice. Do I take the train or do I take a bus? So we wanted this 511 to be multimodal, agency agnostic, and we wanted to include first, second, and third generation features. If you looked at how it integrates with the ICM, there's the SmartNet system where we bring all the data. TxDOT's, center-to-center data comes in, DART's data, which includes automated passenger counting data, parking data, Bluetooth travel speeds, and where we don't have ways to monitor the road, we're using proprietary data from Navtech or here to get speeds, and that's based on probe information. This just shows you kind of what the screens might look like. This is a newer version of the SmartNet, but you can see all the cameras, you can see the streets, you'll see the speeds on the roads. So what we have included in our 511 does have highway and arterial speeds and any incidents that are triggered by TxDOT or that put in by DART or other NTTA. And we have real-time parking. We've instrumented 5 of the parking lots along that US 75 corridor. We have light rail that goes up to Plano, and we never knew at DART whether our lots were full or they weren't full. We'd find out, the next day. So we're able to now measure whether they're full, how full they are, and communicate that to the user. We also have, for the very first time, real-time load information on the trains. Traditionally, I would look at the passenger counts the next day or the next month, and we use that for capacity planning. But we didn't have any information that told us right now, right at this time, here's what the capacities are of the trains. And we just had that Texas OU football game, and that information then allows us to deploy buses to augment the trains where we are overloading the trains and can't put people on them. And that's a direct outgrowth of this integrated corridor management investment. We also bring in, and this is really popular, we bring in weather information tied to that DFW area, so you can see tied to the roads, you can see the radar, you can see where very isolated and specific weather events are occurring. And then we have an ability for people to pick their own travel interests. You know, so if I'm traveling from this to east to west and I'm using 635, or if I'm using 35 or US 75, I can select just those segments I'm interested in to get information. And again, we have the ability to get email alerts, text alerts, or phone alerts that are all initiated not by the user but by the event occurring. And we are in the process of developing a mobile app. They have an excellent one in San Diego. We will soon have one which we think is essential. And this just kind of shows you the screen that we have for our website. This is where you can set up your own personalized 511. This is where you would set up your travel route. You can say, here's where I'm starting, there's where I'd like to end, and you can then say what kind of message. Do you want it by text? Do you want it email? You want a phone call? We have a trip planner. The trip planner information is, again, multimodal, and it's in bus, and it also includes the T, DCTA, and DART. We would like to involve TAPS, which is a rural provider that's serving northern Collin County. And this is where you can see a screen that shows you the capacity, that shows you that we've got lots of capacity available at that lot. And this shows you the train departures, and this is now available where it gives you real-time travel, not just the scheduled information. And you can see if the trains are on time or not on time. We also are now sharing, and I think this week it will be made public, so that the data incidents that are available to DART and to the 511 system will be made available, so that an entity like Google or Bing or HERE or any other private developer that wants to develop an application that takes advantage of real-time travel information can use it. And we don't charge for it. We ask that they register. We really need that to be expanded. There's a lot of reticence, and I guess that I'll cover that in a second. But this is what the mobile app would look like. This is based off of the one in San Diego, I believe. Costs of the 511 system. The bulk of the costs are for the 800 numbers, the data. We're looking that it could be $1.5 million to operate this system. About $1 million is tied to license fees for Navtech, Google, all the different fees that you've got to pay to use those tools. There's about $500,000 that's associated with supporting a 24/7 website and making sure everything works. And part of ours also is tied in with the integrated corridor management incidents to make sure all that works. The lessons learned, and I guess this is an area that we have really focused a lot on recently, because if you look at whether you want to continue a 511 system, you have to figure out what works, what doesn't. We really felt that the integrated corridor management approach and that system really provides the real value that you get from information for 511. It begins, again, that's multi-agency, it's multimodal, and we felt that it's that real-time data, bringing it in, that makes 511 useful to the motorist or the transit user, because they're getting stuff they can't normally get. We have had to focus a lot on how we get that data in. Is it automated? If it's going in through the center-to-center, we get a direct feed from that center-to-center data from TxDOT, and it goes right into 511. We have not fully gotten all the other agencies like NTTA. We've not gotten all theirs, although my understanding is they're looking at using Lone Star, and they may allow us to get their incidents in an automated way rather than keying them in a second time. Marketing, we think, is essential to build sort of a brand awareness of 511. Since we do not have statewide 511, you'll find that We struggle with that. That probably the most valuable piece of information, if you look at the 43 511 systems across the country, is generally the highway departments will have 511 signs as you come into the metropolitan area. So that people see that 511 is a traveler information number or a traveler information tool. And we don't have that yet. We would like to. We keep lobbying for that, but that's not a decision that the group that's involved with 511 has control over. We also will be looking to try to have the traveler information, that 511 DFW, be linked on all the other traveler information sources, like DART's website or NTTA's website, as an additional assist to those people who are using those facilities. And again, DART, in the beginning, we put about $600,000 into advertising. Believe it or not, it seems like a big number, but it's nothing compared to what you could spend to really get knowledge. We had outdoor signs, we had all kinds of different radio signs, but it takes a lot of effort to get that knowledge to be out there. We think that we need about 3 more years to try to fully get 511 to be adopted by all the cities, by all the different agencies as the 511, the traveler information tool. We also believe that public access to the data through data exports, like if TxDOT's data is available so that you can download it and have it directly available to by here or Google, that information will then be shared much more broadly than having to worry about just 511 having that or just TxDOT having it. That's how the traveler wants the information, and we think that's the future. Particularly as you look at vehicle-to-vehicle communication and in-vehicle communication, it's those private entities that are going to be providing those services, but they need data, they need information. And then the final piece is that where DART was not able to get automated feeds, we had a team of people that were involved with integrated corridor management that entered the data, like if we got an incident, if the train was down, or if there was a road that wasn't a TxDOT road that had an incident, we would enter that information. But you ultimately want that to be automated so that you don't have to have that labor cost of getting that done. So these just to show you a couple of quick pictures on what some of this is. Mobile device advertising. This is what it looked like when we put it on billboards. And we did gas pump advertising. We did advertising at theaters. We had internet radio, regular radio. DART put a lot of advertising on its trains and its vehicles, and that helped us get that word out. Although I would, to be honest, it takes a lot more effort to get that knowledge out there across the spectrum of motorists. So that really sort of summarizes what we have done with 511 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And if you have questions, Andy or myself would be more than happy to attempt to answer them. Yes, sir. The question was, do we know who has registered and do we know the demographics? Those people who use it that schedule My 511 do register, and you get a name and an email and some information on them. There are many people who use it without that. They don't register. They get information from the website. We have not done that. There is work being done through the evaluation process where they are interviewing people and asking them about how they get their travel information, and that does will give demographic information, but that's a really good that's something we probably should be looking at, but we don't have that. Other questions? Yes, sir. From what looking at the numbers, it is overwhelmingly interest now on getting information from text, emails, website. The calling 511, while there is that usage, it is very small relative to the total focus. People seem to like personalized direction. They don't necessarily want to call. Now, we do have people who do call, but it seems to be more web-based at this point. I can't answer. The question is, does the cost of having 511 and basically what you have is an 800 number that's behind that, and so that means that the 511 group is paying for those phone pieces. So that's part of our process as the Council of Governments and TxDOT and the partners involved in funding it to see is there value in this, and is there. But I think we're not at a point where we would want to give up that, but I think, that's an issue that probably needs to be answered but hasn't been answered yet. Yes? The question was, and it was maybe referencing if you set it up under My 511, does it recommend an alternative route? Our 511 does not. It sort of tells you the conditions of your route and what's happening, and then I'll decide like, oh, I'm going to go to this other way. I saw a demonstration done by HERE, which is the old Navtech, at the ITS conference in Detroit, and they actually have taken all this real-time data, and they do a sort of a simulation to show an alternative routing. And again, that's part of the value of these private companies getting this real-time data. And some of it they get themselves. They have probe data, but some of it they need to get from public agencies. And theirs actually would show you a route. It would tell you the time. And the other really interesting thing about what they're using is they're bringing in crowdsourced data, Twitter feeds and pictures and video, and that all comes into some big database that allows people to sort of make decisions on where to go, like in Chicago or special events if there's a parade, and they can kind of watch what's going on in these social media as another way of measuring what's happening on the roads or in transit. And so that's a pretty exciting tool. We're not there yet, but again, I'm lobbying for the fact that 511 or the public access of 511 data and real-time data be made available to the public so that tools like what HERE or Bing or Google are doing will be able to be provided to the traveling public. Yes, sir. Yes, the question is there, we have certainly the significant issue of trying to avoid distracted driving, and so is a 511 or any kind of information that would encourage somebody to use a mobile device while they're driving. Is there a conflict with that? I think yes, there is. However, as a motorist, by and large, when I take my commute stuff, I get all my information before I leave. I get it, I check before I actually leave home. Now, there are incidents that occur, like on 75 with the ICM, where something happens and you're not aware of that before. So I think again, where we think the future is going to be these in-vehicle communication and stuff that talks to you. Like when I came today from Houston, I had a little navigator that was a Google navigator, and I didn't look at it at all. I just sat it in my chair next to me, and it said, at 800 feet, turn right. And so we think travel information with the technologies going to vehicles, it's going to be announced to you. Now that might also be distracting, but I don't think we're ever going to get rid of all distractions. And in fact, we have, within the state, we have dynamic message signs. We have, federal law that requires that we have Amber Alerts on there, and there's nothing more distracting than trying to read, the detailed description of a person that's wandered away. So we think that travel information, is important, and the new types of ways of getting information can avoid that distracted driving risk, or at least some of it.